Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorders, I head out for a walk, and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners. It's a lovely day here in suburban Chicago. It is New Year's Day. Happy New Year. It is January 1st, 2023, and I'm recording the last two episodes of the podcast. I'm going to drop them both today, and then we will take a hiatus for 3 weeks while I teach my zombie class, and then we'll resume the fourth Monday of the semester of January with season 6. Can you believe it? I can't. But 2 more episodes to go. Because it is January 1st, the first thing I need to do is, of course, the January top of the stack. All right, as in case anyone has stumbled into the 499th episode of the season series, the top of the stack is a monthly sum up of what's gone on in the past 30 days of my gaming experience. So we talk about what I've played and what my goals were and where we're going. I do have some end of the year goals as well, although I think I'm going to talk about them in episode 5 or beginning of the year goals for 2023. I'll be talking about those in the next episode. But also, as a reminder one more time, the top of the stack, the name Top of the Stack is swiped from the Podcast of Nonsensical Gamers, which is a defunct podcast that was run by a number of interesting folks, including Dan Scandalous Nad. I can't remember his last name. He has a game out now called Storm Chasers, which I've been keeping an eye out for at my local Target and has not yet shown up. But if it does, I shall buy myself a copy. Okay, so December 2022, final monthly stats. I played 93 plays of 59 different games, bringing my year total for 2022 to 870 plays of 332 games. That's a pretty good spread, if I do say myself. 332, that's almost a different game every day, or one different game for each day of the year. That's pretty great. My shelf of opportunity started at 61 games. Now, you'll recall last year, it actually went up over the course of the year. My goal was to halve it this year. I didn't even get close to that, but I am down to 55. So now, it was 55 at the beginning of December, and it ended at 55 as well, which doesn't sound that great, but I acquired a bunch of games, and we got them all played, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. So I did bring it down 6. We're going to be a bit more aggressive with it next year, let's hope. But in the meantime, that was pretty good. And my collection size was supposed to be reduced. 524 games at the beginning of the year. I'm at 553 now, so it increased by 10% instead of decreasing. Oops. Oh well. My most played game in December was Smitten. That's the 18-card mini game released by Stegmaier Games as part of the 10th anniversary sale. And then my most online play game, that was 6 plays of Smitten. My most played online game was Through the Ages, also 6 plays. Pretty great. All right, so under the top of the stack. I had 4 games queued up to play. That was Twilight Imperium, Goonies Never Say Die, Inner Compass, and Where Art Thou, Romeo? And for the first time in the year, not only did I get all 3 of my top of the stack games, which is how many I had to have to consider a success, I actually did all 4. Boom, 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 boom. I managed that on New Year's Eve day. When we were hanging out, I still had the Goonies and Inner Compass, and I said, family, I want to play both of these. And my family accommodated. It was great. I don't know. I think I talked about Twilight Imperium a little bit on the podcast. That was a real delight. My friend Eric invited me over, along with 4 other people, to play Twilight Imperium, and I had a good time. I do believe I talked about that a little bit. I really enjoyed Goonies Never Say Die. Inner Compass was fine. I will talk about those more in a Shootin' from the Hip episode next year, so you're going to have to bait your breath and wait. And then the 4th one was Where Art Thou, Romeo, which we did get played as well. I think I talked about that one already, but if not, you'll get it sometime soon. That said, we did have quite a few first plays this month. I went into the month with 129 first game plays on the books, and I ended up with 147, so 18 new games played this month that I hadn't played before. Just to remind you of those, they were Twilight Imperium, Renature, Bahama Taxi, Maglev Metro, Hues and Cues, Orc, TKO, Hue, Where Art Thou, Romeo, Atlandice, and then this is the Christmas run here, Rear Window, Holly Jolly, Atlantis Rising, Santa's Workshop, The Isle of Cats Explore and Draw, Mosaic, A Story of Civilization, The Goonies Never Say Die, and Inner Compass. Bing, bang, bang, boom, bang, boom. Yeah, it's great. So that puts me in 147 new to me games this year. Now, in the past few months, I've not been updating you on the family 10 for 10. It's the end of the year now, so I had to wrap it up. At the beginning of the year, we had decided to make it organic this year because my family was a little wishy-washy. They didn't want to commit to certain games. So that was fine. I was like, okay, well, when you decide on a game, we'll add it to the list. Well, some of the games never got added at all. So in the end, I was sort of like, well, do I just declare it a wash and don't count up anything? That's not fun. I like to count up stuff. So I decided we would really do the organic 10 for 10 method. And I'd look for each family member's slots that they got to choose. I would pick the game they played most often, and we'd put it in there. Now, my son did pick his two. He picked Kingdom Rush, A Rift in Time, and Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. We played those 8 and 5 times, respectively. My daughter, she played the Bureau of Investigations in Arkham and Elsewhere 4 times, so we counted that. And then So Clover 4 times, we counted that. So 8 plays for the games my daughter picked, or picked after the fact. My wife did pick Cascadia at the beginning, so that's 2 plays. And then, aside from those other games, which I've already mentioned, we also played The Animals of Baker Street 4 times, so I put that in as her second choice. My 4 choices were Dice Miner, Arc Nova, Libertalia, and Super Skill Pinball. The payouts on those were 10 plays for Dice Miner. That's the only game we got all the way to 10. 5 plays of Arc Nova, 6 of Libertalia, and 4 of Super Skill Pinball. Meaning our family's result of our 10 for 10 is 52 out of 100. Not great, but not terrible either. I think averaging 1 game a week as a family is pretty good. I do like to use my Board Game Stats app to track my H index. If I don't really know what the H stands for, where it comes from, but what it means is it's sort of like the square of how many games you've played, how many different games you've played to how many times you've played them. So if you've played 5 different games and you've played them each 5 times, that's an H index of 5. If you've played 10 different games and 4 of them you've played 4 times, but none of the others you've played at least 4, your H index is 4. So what you're looking for is the number of games you've played and how many of them you've played enough times to match how many you've played. It's kind of confusing. I think of it as a square. I don't know if that helps or not, but my H index is 10 this year for asynchronous games. That means I have at least 10 games. Actually, I have quite a few more than 10 that I've played 10 times. I don't have 11 that I've played 11 times. I have like 14 asynchronous games that I've played 10 times or more. That was Through the Ages, Res Arcana, Innovation, Concordia, Agricola, Seven Wonders, A Feast for Odin, Trajan, Praga Caput Regni, and Azul. Through the Ages, I actually played like 60 some times this year, which was awesome. I've got 3 regular games of it going with 3 different people, so I'm really getting to see a lot of growth in that game. Actually, I don't know if I am. I'm enjoying it. I don't know if I'm getting any better. In real life, my H index is 7. So the way real life counts there is if most of the games were played at the table in real life, I count it. If I played 1 or 2 online asynchronously, it could still make the list, but I tried not to do that if I had very many. For example, A Ticket to Ride was in here, but I was in a Ticket to Ride tournament. I played like 4 or 5 games virtually, so I did not include that as a real life game because I had too many virtual plays. So really just looking for tabletop. And my tabletop index is 7. That's Sprawlopolis, Dice Miner, So Clover, Kingdom Rush, Arch Ravels, Quicks, and Smitten. You might be able to argue I shouldn't count Arch Ravels since I helped develop it. So like a lot of my plays have to do with the fact I was working on it as a commercial product, but whatever. All right, so that was my H index. I'd be interested to know, now that the year's over, how did your H indexes go? Head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share your thoughts in the comments. Now, the 52 game challenge, this is the third or fourth year I've done this. Third year, it's the third year I've done it. My first year I didn't even get, I think I had 35 or something. Last year I had 47 out of the 52 challenges. This year, going into December, I had 50 out of the 52. So what do you think? Did I make it? I made it. Yeah, that's right. So the two challenges I had left were play a game with text in a different language than the main game. And I realized I'd been playing it all along. I never noticed Res Arcana, right? There's a bunch of stuff in Res Arcana that's in Latin. So there you go. Text in another language that's not the main language of the game. Res Arcana. And then this one, I'll leave it up to you to judge whether I made it or not. I think I did. Fair enough. I did not go out of my way to play a game with a negative in the title, right? So I should have gone out of my way to play something like No Thanks. But I did not. I forgot about it, honestly. So then when I was looking over it and wrapping up, I was like, oh man, is there any game I played this year that had a negative in the title that I can count? And I realized one of the new games I played this month was Hues and Cues. Of course, in that context, hue, H-U-E, means a color. But hue has another meaning, which means uproar. And I think uproars are pretty negative. So I'm counting it. The hue in Hues and Cues can mean an uproar. And that's what I'm taking it to mean. That's my negative in the title. And that is my 52nd entry. Am I a cheater? Maybe I am, but I'm not taking it as a cheater. My Shelf of Opportunity log, like I said, got challenging. I told you a bunch of the new games that I played this month. There were a bunch of new games I got as well. City Square Off, Perry Mason, Word Search, Gambit, and Allow Me to Mansplain. These are all games that I got this month that I did not get a chance to play yet. And so because of that, even though I played a whole bunch of games this month, because of those new games, I have 55 unplayed games as of today. If you want to see what 55 games there are on the unplayed list, you can go to the show notes for this episode, which you can find at rattleboxgames.com. Just click on podcasts and you can find it. Or I think it shows up as the top news item right now because it's the newest entry. So I did manage to play an expansion. I played the Wingspan Asia 2-player version game with my wife. That was fun. But I also acquired the missions expansion for Nanga Parbat. That came in the mail, which means that the expansion count was a wash. It stayed at 59 because I played Wingspan Asia, which that takes that off the list, but then I added Nanga Parbat missions. Oops-a-doops. And then the last challenge I was running for myself this year is a 2-year challenge, which is I want to play all 50 of my top 50 games between the last time I declared a top 50 games and the next time. So I'm at the halfway point. If you'll remember, in January of last year, I put together my top 50 list. So that means that I have one more year to play in. How have I done in playing my top 50? I went through, and now these ones, if I played them online, I count it because, well, frankly, it does feel like playing them, especially games I've played before. Playing them online gives me a high percentage of the satisfaction of playing them in person. So I counted it. With that to be said, I have 12 games left to play in order to make my top 50. And here are the 12. Android Netrunner, Altiplano, Terraforming Mars, Cerebria, Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, Last Will, Shipyard, A Touch of Evil, Terra Mystica, Trismegistus, Five Tribes, and Clank. Now, if I play all 12 of those before next year when I compile my new top 50 list, I will have gotten to play all of the games in my top 50 between the two. Clearly, the two most challenging games to play are going to be Netrunner and Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. Both of these are collectible card games. Playing them is a big lift. I miss Netrunner. And I wouldn't be surprised to see me dip my toes back into that water, especially online virtual play. Vampire: The Eternal Struggle is going to be the hardest one. I know there is some online spaces to play. It would be fun to review it, grab a net deck, and just give it a try again. I'll have to see if I can find some time or some community to do that with. The other ones should all be doable, I think. Well, that brings me to my last thing, which is next year's top of the stack. Now I have a number of other things I want to do next year that are not directly top of the stack, so I will talk about those in an upcoming episode, particularly the one I'm going to record in a few minutes. But I did want to record my top 3 top of the stack games, or top 4 top of the stack games, and give you the new categories I'm going to use for them going forward. So for top of the stack, my plan is, as always, I'm going to have one entry that is new. This is a new game I haven't played before. It's in my collection. I'm trying to get it off the stack, try to get it tried. It's going to be Turing Machine this month. That's the new game that I want to try. And then I'm going to have a reattempt game. This is one where it's already in the stack. Maybe I've tried to play it more than once. I haven't gotten it to the table, and I'm going to try again this month. And that is a game called This Game Goes to 11. It's a very simple card game, joking on Spinal Tap. I picked it up cheaply. I want to try it, and then it probably will leave my collection. That's Goes to 11. That's my reattempt. Now, the last 2 are new ways of picking games on top of the stack. You know, if I have a big collection now, one of the things that happens is you have games get dusty, meaning they go a long time without getting played, even if you really like them. So one of the things I'm adding to my collection now is a dusty category where I pick a game from my collection that I've played before that I haven't played in more than a year, and I'm going to put that in my stack. And this month it's Nusfjord. I keep hearing people reminding me how great this game is, and I just haven't gotten it back to the table. In particular, Chris over at the Shuffle Buddies podcast talked about how Nusfjord is a great solo game, so I'm sort of tempted to see if I could get that to work for me. But either way, Nusfjord, it's coming out this month. And then finally, the 4th entry that I'm going to do each month is my top 50 entry for the month. As I said, there are 12 of these that have to get played each month, and I figure making a public declaration of which one I'm going to play will help me get it to the table. In other words, I'm holding myself a little bit more accountable to that top 50 challenge that I gave myself a year ago. And in that regard, I'm going to try to play Last Will this month. It's a good starter. I know it pretty well, so the rules teach is pretty light. It's very playable, so I should be able to get it played at Toggle without too much effort, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's Last Will on my top 50 Redux. So my 4 games on the top of the stack for next month for January are Turing Machine, Goes to 11, Last Will, and Nusfjord. Well, that brings me to the end of my podcast today. Thank you all for joining me. I hope that you've had good success with your top of the stack. If so, head over, or if not, either way, head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share your experience this month. What games have you played? What new games got added to your collection that you're looking forward to? And most importantly, what's on the top of the stack for next month? Thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.